Hey, I hope you guys are doing good today. We have made it to first class on the Titanic. I think this is going to be a really good one. They've all been good, honestly. I've really enjoyed all of the Titanic classes and the food and just everything about it has been really, really amazing. If you do get a chance, I'd appreciate if you can leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. And I will have Tasting History's video linked in my description below. So be sure to go and give him a subscribe and watch his videos, all that good stuff. He does an amazing job. But all right, let's see how first class is on the Titanic.
Everything about the first-class experience aboard the RMS Titanic was extravagant and elegant. But perhaps nothing was more extravagant and elegant than dinner in the first-class dining saloon, which culminated in this peaches in chartreuse jelly.
Oh my gosh, this looks so fancy. For just a dessert, this looks very, very fancy. It looks delicious.
Something I'm going to make today. So thank you to Wondrium for sponsoring this video as we dine first class, this time on Tasting History. So we started our month of Titanic videos with a soup from third class, then made several entrees, a cocktail, and a palate cleanser, so now it's time for dessert. And while that first-class dinner menu from the night of April 14th, 1912 had several dessert options, none seems more interesting and frankly foreign than the peaches in chartreuse jelly. But what is peaches in chartreuse jelly?
Oh yeah, what is this behind us? I've never seen this one. It looks like a ice cube head penguin of some sort. I can't say I've ever seen that one before. It is adorable though.
Peaches in chartreuse jelly. But what is peaches in chartreuse jelly? Well, most modern interpretations assume that it is peaches inside of a chartreuse flavored jelly. And this is chartreuse. It is a liqueur that was very popular at the time, dates back a long time. It actually has a wonderful history. I'll have to do a whole episode on it at some point, but it has
I'm not well versed in liquor, alcohol type stuff, so I've never heard of this. It's a very cool color though. I like that green color it has.
time. It actually has a wonderful history. I'll have to do a whole episode on it at some point, but it has a very, very herbal flavor. It
Oh, okay.
kind of reminds me of medicine, actually.
Oh. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. I know there's people that really like medicine flavored stuff for some odd reason. I am not a huge fan. That's why I usually have a kind of like hit or miss feeling with cherry flavored and raspberry flavored stuff. That's like candy flavored, I guess, bases because I feel like they sometimes taste like cough syrup to me, and that's usually not a good thing in my opinion, but some people actually like that flavor.
Herbal flavor. It kind of reminds me of medicine, actually. Sweet medicine.
Sweet
But when you go
medicine,
back to
okay.
actual cookbooks from this era, you see that chartreuse jelly sometimes referred to the liqueur, but more often just referred to the color. Color with a few drops of sap green to make it a pale tint like green chartreuse, and flavor it with chartreuse, noyau, brandy, or other flavor. So yes, they were still using the ingredient, but not always. And the great Victorian cookbook author Isabella Beeton includes several recipes for chartreuse with bananas and chartreuse with oranges, and has a picture of chartreuse with peaches, though not a recipe and it's not in color.
That actually doesn't sound so bad. It actually sounds pretty good. When did we get food coloring? When was that invented? Because that, like, because it just kind of makes me think. Because obviously we're using some other means of coloring our gelatin here. So I wonder. I actually have no idea when food coloring or food dye, food coloring. When did that come around?
And has a picture of chartreuse with peaches, though not a recipe and it's not in color, which is kind of annoying, but none of those recipes do include chartreuse. So this version is going to take a little bit from Agnes Marshall, a little bit from Isabella Beeton, and a little bit from Escoffier, who said, when using peaches in jelly, they should be dipped into boiling water so as to remove the skin. They are then cooked in a syrup and allowed to cool in it. Now today we wouldn't usually think of peaches and jello as a particularly fancy dessert, but it would have been the show-stopping centerpiece of any fancy dinner during the Gilded Age, which is
That's so funny how so many things have become like such like a not fancy thing anymore. Like I know like when I think of Jello, I definitely don't think of fancy or gelatin, Jello, whatever. I definitely don't think of like it being a fancy dessert. It's just kind of cool how things evolve like that.
shopping centerpiece of any fancy dinner during the Gilded Age, which is not only
I
a
love this
charming show,
picture.
but more historically is covered in a wonderful documentary series from today's sponsor, Wondrium. During my many hours in the kitchen, I often use that as time to start researching for my next episodes, and that usually starts with a course from Wondrium, which used to be the Great Courses Plus. Wondrium has an amazing library of educational videos taught by experts in their field on every topic from science, food, travel, and of course, history. And while watching this documentary on America in the Gilded Age, I came across a fact that made me wonder if the stationary bikes aboard the Titanic didn't cause somewhat of a fervor. Because only 20 years earlier, it was thought that women riding bicycles would lead to immorality. For it is not the proper
What?
thing for the ladies to ride the bicycle. They wear skirts, of course, but if we do not stop them now, they will want to be in the style with the New York women and wear bloomers.
Imagine women wearing pants. That's so crazy.
Then how would our schoolrooms look with the lady teachers parading around among the boys and girls wearing bloomers? For land's sakes, where are my smelling salts? Now, if you want to be scandalized with more interesting facts like this, you can click the link in the description to visit wondrium.com/tastinghistory to start your free trial today. But whether you're wearing a skirt or bloomers or even trousers, what you'll need for this recipe is 16 sheets of gelatin or 4 envelopes of powdered gelatin. Now, by the time of Titanic, both types of gelatin were used, so you can use either one. They were usually either made of beef hooves or isinglass, which is made from the swim bladders of fish. So yeah,
Oh.
either one's gonna work, but don't think about what they are.
That's so true. Gelatin's like such a weird thing and it has such a weird base. Cause yeah, I do remember looking at the ingredients of gelatin and I was like, what the hell? Yeah, just don't think about it.
Of fish. So yeah, either one's gonna work, but don't think about what they are. 3 cups or 750 milliliters of water, a half cup or 50 grams of sugar, 1 cup or 250 milliliters of chartreuse, 2 to 4 peaches, and a cup of simple syrup, or if you don't have ripe peaches, then you can use canned peaches in syrup. And when it came to the Titanic, I was wondering what they had, because the Titanic was sailing in April, and peaches really aren't in season in April, but they did have plenty of canned foods on the ship. And I didn't see peaches on the manifest, though I don't have a complete manifest. But then I came across a quote from first-class passenger Mrs. Douglas, who recalled, "The food was superb: caviar, lobster, quail from Egypt, plover's eggs, and hothouse grapes and fresh peaches." So not only did they have
Well, there you go. There were peaches. What are plover's eggs? What is that?
plover's eggs and hothouse grapes and fresh peaches. So not only did they have fresh peaches, but they also had grapes. And in 1912, eating a grape was much more complicated than it is now. First of all, they had seeds. And second of all, they put them out on the table in front of you. You can't just take them. No, you would have a pair of grape scissors, specially
Oh,
designed for cutting a small bunch from a larger bunch
fancy.
that then you could put on your plate and then eat with your fingers. But there would still be rules. When eating grapes, the half-closed hand should be placed to the lips, and the stones and skins adroitly allowed to fall into the fingers and quickly placed on the side of the plate.
I didn't even know there was a certain etiquette to eating grapes. I had absolutely no idea. Oh, okay, fair enough.
The back of the hand concealing the maneuver from view. That really sounds like a very stressful fruit to eat.
Yes.
Luckily, this recipe doesn't have any grapes, it has peaches, and it's not that hard to make. So first mix the 3 cups of water with the sugar in a large saucepan and bring to a simmer. While it heats, soak the gelatin leaves or bloom the packets in cold water, then remove the simmering water from the heat and squeeze out any excess water from the gelatin and add it to the hot water. Then mix until it dissolves. Also, make sure that you never boil the water with the gelatin in it, because boiling it will make it lose its gelatinous properties. Then
Okay.
mix in the chartreuse and pour it into a well-greased mold. Now, if you have a wonderful period Victorian mold like this, then use that, but
I love this. Because I remember in one of his other videos, he had showed this mold off, and I think it's so cool. It's so cool.
greased mold. Now, if you have a wonderful period Victorian mold like this, then use that, but if you don't, then you can use either a silicone or a metal bundt pan. Either way, you're going to set it in the refrigerator for about 1 to 3 hours. It's going to depend on the size and the width of your pan. You'd want it to be starting to set where it's kind of thick, but not too thick, because you want to be able to fit the fruit in. Now, if you're using canned
Oh,
peaches, you
okay.
don't really have to do anything here, but if you are using fresh peaches, score a small X in the bottom, and then set it into a pot of boiling water for about 30 to 45 seconds, and then take it out and immediately put it in ice water for 10 to 15 seconds. Now, the skins should just slough off very easily, but if they're not actually ripe, it's going to be a little bit harder. You can try doing it again, but even then, you may have to peel them by hand. But frankly, if you don't have ripe peaches, like I couldn't find ripe peaches, then maybe canned peaches is just the way to go. But if they
I do love canned peaches, though. I think it's the syrup in them, but man, oh, I love canned peaches. I feel like that's like a little dessert in itself.
I couldn't find ripe peaches, then maybe canned peaches is just the way to go. But if they are ripe, then heat some simple syrup on the stove, slice the peaches, and coat the slices in the simple syrup. Then turn off the stove and leave them to cool. Regardless of which peach you use, once the jelly is thickened, insert the peaches into the jelly in whatever style you like, and then return it to the refrigerator for at least 8 hours. Though if you have a thick mold like this, fairly deep, it really is going to take closer to a full day to set. But that's plenty of time to like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter at
Yes.
TastingHistory1, and imagine yourself a first-class passenger aboard the RMS Titanic. Now, the disparity between first, second, and third class passengers is pretty evident. What's less evident is the disparity within the first class, which is actually a lot more than it is between the other classes. See, the cost of a first class ticket could vary wildly, the cheapest being around £30 or $3,500 today, and the most expensive around £870 or close to $100,000 today.
$100,000? I can't even imagine. I guess how much would it cost on a cruise ship today if you were to get like, they must have like suites or penthouse type deals, right? I would imagine on a cruise ship, like there's got to be suites, but I wonder how much those run. But like $100,000, I I can't. I could never imagine spending that. That is crazy.
Around £870 or close to $100,000 today. So when we talk about first class, yes, some of those people are like first class passengers on an airplane, but then some of those people
Oh yeah, like how much is it to fly first class on an airplane? Clearly, it can't be 100,000. I mean, I'm sure it's outrageous, but 100,000? Oh my gosh. My brain can't even handle that.
are more like people who own their own private
Oh
jets.
yeah.
But even at the bottom of first class, your cabin is quite nice. Besides a bed, there was a horsehair sofa, dressing table.
Ooh, this is really nice. Oh wow. The big difference. There's a big difference. This is like lap of luxury here.
First class, your cabin is quite nice. Besides a bed, there was a horsehair
Gorgeous.
sofa, dressing table, wardrobe, and a marble-topped washstand with basin. Now, while the entire ship was centrally heated, the first class cabins included other personal electric heaters, and you had a little call button that you could call a steward in, really for anything, but you could ask them to bring a personal electric heater for your bed. When
Oh
I worked on a
wow.
cruise ship, we weren't even allowed to have hot plates.
Oh no, he wasn't even allowed to have a hot plate. Man, gosh. Oh gosh. It sounds like working on a cruise ship kind of sucks. Which maybe just the experience itself was really good, but I feel like the way they get treated is not so nice.
Heater for your bed. When I worked on a cruise ship, we weren't even allowed to have hot plates. Times have changed. But
Yeah.
at this low degree of first class, you were still missing something that we would consider pretty standard today, and that was your own bath or toilet. For that, you
Oh,
needed to upgrade to a suite. Now, at this level of wealth, it was assumed that you were traveling with help, and so you would have an adjoining room for your servants. They were also generally a little bit larger and had larger beds than the other cabins, but if you wanted real space, then you had to splurge on one of the 4 parlor suites. 2 large bedrooms, each with a
a parlor suite? Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine, like, having this kind of money. This is so pretty, though. Oh, it's gorgeous.
splurge on one of the 4 parlor suites. 2 large bedrooms, each with a
Wow.
walk-in dressing room, a private bathroom and lavatory, and a spacious sitting room where you could host small parties. These rooms featured plush sofas and chairs, a writing table, and a faux fireplace.
Oh my
2 of them
gosh.
even included a private 50-foot promenade deck, just in case you couldn't even be bothered to walk near other people.
A 50-foot promenade deck? Oh my gosh. That's crazy. That's amazing. I absolutely love how stuff used to look. I mean, I know these pictures are black and white, but still, you could just see like how much thought and detail and just everything about these rooms just look absolutely amazing.
50-foot promenade deck, just in case you couldn't even be bothered to walk near other people. On the maiden voyage, one of the suites was occupied by the chairman of the White Star Line, J. Bruce Ismay, and the other by Mrs. Charlotte Cardezza, her son Thomas, and their 2 servants. And Mrs. Cardezza, sometimes written Cardoza, did not pack light, but rather pack like my mom going on a long weekend. She had 14 steamer trunks, 3 suitcases, 3 large crates of baggage, and a medicine chest.
Oh my god, ma'am. How she's moving house. She is moving house. She's not going on vacation. Oh my god.
Steamer trunks, 3 suitcases, 3 large crates of baggage, and a medicine chest. But most first-class passengers had people to do their unpacking for them, and so
That's
they could
true.
enjoy the amenities Titanic had to offer. You could head up to the boat deck for an open-air promenade with views to the side of the ship as well as toward the bow. Walk around to the starboard side of the boat deck, and you'd find the gymnasium with state-of-the-art equipment like the
Oh
electric
wow.
horse, the electric camel, a rowing machine, and mechanical bicycles.
Man, gyms sure have changed, haven't they? This looks so cool though. Oh, I actually had no clue what a gym during this time would actually look like. Now I know. This is actually kind of fascinating to see. I like it. I like it.
For something a bit more aerobic, you could spend 2 shillings to play a game of squash on the indoor squash court, or swim a few laps in the saltwater
Oh, they
swimming
had a
bath, open to
pool.
women before lunch and men afterward. This amenity was part of the Turkish bath complex, the precursor to today's spa. For 4 shillings, you could be pampered in a set of rooms designed to evoke a Turkish hammam. It evoked, in the words of the White Star Line, something of the grandeur of the mysterious East.
This looks so fancy. This looks very, very tranquil and relaxing. I think this is cool.
Can't imagine seeing that on a marketing pamphlet today. You could also have a shave at the barbershop or enjoy a cigar in the first-class smoking room, as long as you're a man, that is. The ladies preferred to lax in the reading and writing room, decorated in the Georgian style with silk-upholstered settees, or else in the first-class lounge with high ceilings modeled after the Palace of Versailles. And
I love how all of these rooms kind of set such a mood to them, like the smoking room for the men, it just seems very, like masculine, relaxing, nice, classy. The women's room with the reading and writing, it was so brightly lit that it seems like it would be perfect for reading and writing and relaxing and still has like such a like a nice, like, cozy feel to them, but, like, fancy cozy, I guess? I don't know. But I love how all of these rooms have been designed, and I feel like the more you look at some of these pictures, the more details you see in them, and it's absolutely amazing, like, what they were able to come up with and create for these. It's really just I'm just in awe of these rooms.
or else in the first-class lounge with high ceilings modeled after the Palace of Versailles, and was primarily used for playing cards, reading, and enjoying a bit of coffee and tea. But as nice as these activities were, they were merely diversions between what took up most of your time, and that was eating meals. If you were an early riser, you'd likely start eating in your room, where the steward would bring you fresh fruit, warm scones and jam, and coffee and tea. And then you would dress for second breakfast. Yes, like hobbits at 8 a.m., the
Like hobbits. Second breakfast. Oh my gosh. So your day is just eating. I need to go on a cruise.
coffee and tea. And then you would dress for second breakfast. Yes, like hobbits at 8 a.m., the first class passengers would be called to breakfast by the bugle player. Breakfast included omelets, baked apples,
Oh
steak
wow.
and mutton chops to order, vegetable stew, and different smoked fish, and a selection of carbs, which included Quaker oats. Likely enjoyed by first class passenger Walter Donald Douglas, who was the director of the Quaker Oats Company. Now, while there were many places for the first
Huh.
class to eat, this version of breakfast would have been taken in the first class.
So this had like a lot of heavy hitters on here. I had no idea. I mean, it's not surprising, but to realize like how many influential people.
Now, while there were many places for the first class to eat, this version of breakfast would have been taken in the first class dining saloon, which could seat up to 554 passengers. Its white paneled walls stretched the entire width of the ship, and its portholes were elegantly concealed
Oh my
by
gosh.
leaded glass windows. Now, on Sunday, April 14th, breakfast had to be cleared away for the 10:30 Anglican church service led by Captain Smith himself, after which everything had to be put back for lunch at 1 p.m. Now, after lunch, yes, you could do some exercise at the gymnasium or the promenade deck, but if I had my druthers, I'd head to the trendy Café Parisien on B deck, where many of the younger passengers gathered. Though I don't think I'd be considered a younger passenger at this point, which is kind of depressing.
Oh, I feel that. Yep. Yep, you and me both, Max. I feel that.
Other options were the Palm Court or Veranda Cafe. Matching rooms on either side of the ship, they included potted palms and ivy-covered walls to mirror the dining room of London's Savoy Hotel. Now, all of these different places to eat really illustrates one of the main differences between the first and second, and especially the third class, because second and third class had their dining saloon, and that was the only place they had to eat. First class had lots of options for all of their meals, especially for dinner. And
For $100,000, I would hope so. Although that does make sense that first class people seem like they need a lot, I guess. Because I feel like every time you hear about first class things, it's always they have so much, which also makes sense because I would imagine if you are paying an outrageous amount of money, you probably should have that.
first class had lots of options for all of their meals, especially for dinner. And leading up to this largest meal of the day, you would head back to your cabin to dress to the nines, as they say. Men wore white tie, and first class passenger Elmer Taylor recalled dinner gave women passengers an opportunity to get out their latest Parisian gowns.
I love these dresses. They are beautiful. Oh, I love them. I like this one on the right a lot. That one's really, really pretty. But I mean, like they're both gorgeous. I love this.
Their most brilliant jewels. It was a brilliant assembly. Contentment and happiness prevailed. Once dressed, you could take the first class elevators down, or more conspicuously, descend the grand staircase onto D deck
Beautiful.
and head to the reception room to gather for dinner. This was a time to listen to Wagner and Offenbach played by the five-piece orchestra led by Wallace Hartley. And you could order a cocktail to warm up your stomach for the 10 or 11 course onslaught you are about to enjoy.
I still can't get over that. That's it. It's 10, 10 to 11 course meal. I can't even imagine.
Most of this meal was served by stewards carrying around silver platters, offering diners something from each dish along with an accompanying wine. They would start with oysters and hors d'oeuvres, then a choice of consommé Olga or cream of barley soup, before moving on to poached salmon with mousseline sauce, then filet mignon and chicken lyonnaise, then lamb, roast duckling, and sirloin of beef with chateau potatoes. A course of punch romaine to cleanse the palate before enjoying roast squab, asparagus, and pâté foie gras, and then a
Oh my
dessert of French
God.
ice cream, Waldorf pudding, eclairs, or of course some peaches in chartreuse.
It's so much food. Holy moly. It all sounds like it's really good though. This seems like it was a pretty cool experience.
Jelly. Then there would be a course of nuts, cheese, and coffee before the men headed off to enjoy a cigar and brandy in the smoke room. Some of the ladies would withdraw to the reading room, but in practice it seems that most of the ladies stayed at the table to chat in the saloon. Though according to some sources, many of the Titanic's most elite enjoyed that final meal in the a la carte restaurant, sometimes nicknamed the Ritz restaurant. And I discussed it in detail in the last episode, but this is where Mrs. Walter Douglas ate her fresh peaches and grapes that last night on the ship. We dined the last night in the Ritz restaurant. It was the last word in luxury. The tables were gay with pink roses and white daisies, the women in their beautiful shimmering gowns of satin and silk, the men immaculate and well-groomed, the stringed orchestra playing music from Puccini and Tchaikovsky.
I feel like this would be such a cool experience, and I'm sure for them it's probably, just like a Friday night dinner or whatever, but I would love to see if there were like more photos taken during this time because I feel like it would be really cool to see all these people dressed up and see all their fashion and it seems like a really cool experience, but I guess that's like from a outlier looking in that, you know.
This may have also been where Lady Duff Gordon and Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon ate as well. Lady Duff Gordon was a wealthy fashionista of the time, and she gives one of the most complete first-hand accounts of the events aboard Titanic. And it's perfect to share for this episode because it is just so first class and
Oh God. You know what? He worded that so diplomatically that I just love it because I feel like when you hear this, it's gonna be like such a like unhinged and disconnected comment that she's probably gonna make about
share for this episode because it is just so first class, and I don't necessarily mean that as a compliment.
this.
She begins the narrative of that night by reassuring readers that I have never been a psychic woman and in all my life have never been to a seance or dabbled in the occult. But something warned me, some deep instinct, that all was not well. But despite her misgivings, she dresses and goes down to dinner. I remember that last meal on Titanic very well. We had a big vase of beautiful daffodils on the table, which were as fresh as if they had just been picked. Everybody was very gay, and at neighboring tables, people were making bets on the probable time of this record-breaking run. She talks of the multi-millionaires, the Wideners and Thayers, laughing as they dined with Captain Smith, and at another table was the wealthiest man on board, John Jacob Astor IV, and his bride. And they were the subject of quite a bit of gossip. See, Astor was 46 and recently divorced when he married Madeline, his new bride of 18.
Oh. Oh, okay. I mean, I would have thought the divorce alone was gonna be scandalous, but fair enough, fair enough.
Divorced when he married Madeline, his new bride of 18. El scandalo. But the
Yeah.
fervor must have subsided because they were dining with former congressman and owner of Macy's department store Isidore Straus
Oh
and
my
his
gosh.
wife. Lady Duff Gordon says that these two so openly adored one another. They told us last
I will say I had no idea that there were so like just so many heavy hitters on the Titanic. I had no clue.
Lady Duff Gordon says that these two so openly adored one another. They told us laughingly that in their long years of married life, they had never been separated for one day or night. Their bodies were found afterwards clasped in one another's arms.
Aw,
After dinner, Lady
that's so sad.
were found afterwards clasped in one another's arms. After dinner, Lady Duff Gordon returned to her cabin on A deck and chatted with her secretary, Miss Francatelli, as they warmed themselves by the electric heater. Then she undressed and went to bed. But she hadn't been asleep for very long when she was awakened by a low rumbling noise, and then she heard voices out in the hall, one that said that they had struck an iceberg. So she got up and went out into the hall, where an officer told her that it was nothing and that she should go back to bed.
No, that's not nothing. If you hit an iceberg, I would say that's not nothing. That's kind of a huge deal. I I get not wanting to make people panic, but at the same time, I would say that is not nothing.
hall where an officer told her that it was nothing and that she should go back to bed. It was also around this time that Margaret Brown, later known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, also came out of her cabin.
I've been to her house. I did do the Molly Brown tour. Her house is absolutely gorgeous.
Around this time that Margaret Brown, later known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, also came out of her cabin. On emerging from my stateroom, I found many men in the gangway in their pajamas. They, while standing, were chaffing each other. One of them remarked, "Are you prepared to swim in those things?" referring to the pajamas. Women were standing along the corridors in their kimonos. All seemed to be quietly listening, thinking nothing serious had occurred. By the way, in the Broadway musical Titanic, there's this wonderful song called "Dressed in Your Pajamas" in the Grand Salon, and it really talks about this whole scene of just everyone kind of standing around in their pajamas, not thinking that anything was wrong.
Uh, that's not surprising. I actually had no idea that there was a musical of the Titanic.
But in reality, Lady Duff Gordon remembered her feeling of uneasiness and decided to wake her husband Cosmo and tell him to go investigate further. But 10 minutes later, he returned and told his wife that she had better put on her warmest clothes. At the same time, Miss Francatelli, her secretary, who was staying further below decks, came up and said that there was water in her room and that they better put
Oh
on their life
no.
belts. A steward came to help them. We followed him out of the cabin. Before the door closed, I looked round it for one last time. I shall never forget that glimpse of the lovely little room with its beautiful lace quilt and pink cushion. It all
At least she seems a little bit more aware than some of the other people we've seen that, she's just kinda taking it all in one last time, maybe because she knows it's going down and she's never gonna see it again.
glimpse of the lovely little room with its beautiful lace quilt and pink cushion. It all looked so homely and pretty that it did not seem possible there could be any danger. At that moment, a vase of flowers on the washstand slid off suddenly and fell with a crash to the floor. When they got up on deck, the lifeboats were already being loaded, and she comments rather snidely about the willingness of the American women to enter the lifeboats without their husbands, saying that they have brought the cult of chivalry to such a pitch in the States that it comes as second nature to their men to sacrifice themselves and to the women to let them do it. She did indeed refuse to get into a lifeboat without her husband, but there was a smaller lifeboat, Lifeboat 1, that was only capable of holding about 40 people, and there was nobody else around, so she, her husband, and Miss Francatelli all got in. It lowered with only 12 people, 5 passengers and 7 crew members. It really was the closest thing you could get to a first-class experience on a lifeboat.
I don't even know what to say to this one. It held 40 people. It held 40 people. Why didn't what ugh, I am at a loss for that one. Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
And Lady Duff Gordon refused to look at the boat as she was sinking until her husband said, "My God, she is going now." She finally looked up and says that she could hear the clamor of everything that hadn't been bolted to the decks sliding down into the water. I think that it was only at that moment that many of those poor souls on board realized their fate. For a few seconds, Titanic stayed motionless, while agonized cries from her decks grew in intensity, and then, with one downward rush, she plunged to her grave, and the air was rent with those awful shrieks. Then silence.
That's actually like a really chilling statement. I can't imagine experiencing this and seeing this and hearing a lot of people losing their lives. I would imagine this would be extremely traumatizing or at the very least extremely horrific. And I don't necessarily blame her for not wanting to watch it sink because some people just can't handle stuff like this. I mean, this is absolutely like just like a terrifying experience in itself. So I don't necessarily would be too critical of her not watching because, I mean, you're essentially watching people lose their lives on this that didn't get it that weren't able to make it into a boat. So I can't really knock her for that, but um I would imagine that anybody that survived this would probably have nightmares or will forever hear those screams, like, in their sleep constantly. I don't know, 'cause I feel like that's how I would be. Like, if I was on here and was lucky enough to make it off, but had to witness everybody that didn't, I feel like that would be something that would haunt me forever.
Awful shrieks, then silence. Now, what happened next is up for some debate. What definitely did not happen was they did not go back to try to rescue anyone. But the rumor spread that Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon had actually paid the crew members on the lifeboat to not go back and rescue anyone, and the newspapers dubbed it the Money Boat. But this probably
Oof.
didn't actually happen. What likely happened is they were justly worried about the boat being swamped, and the rumor came from a later exchange between Sir Cosmo and one of the crew members. See, after the ship went down, Lady Duff Gordon looked at Miss Francatelli and made a feeble joke. Just fancy that. There is your beautiful nightdress, gone. Well, that gallows humor was not appreciated by the
Yeah, that little bit distasteful, I would say, especially if you're in a boat with crew members. That would probably not go over very well. If the whole boat was maybe all first class people, they could kind of have their distasteful joke, but I would say that joke probably didn't land very good.
There is your beautiful nightdress, gone. Well, that gallows humor was not appreciated by the crew members in the boat, one of whom said, "You people need not bother about losing your things, for you can afford to buy new ones when you get ashore. What about us poor fellows?"
That is a very true statement. That is very true. He he is spitting facts there, 100%.
To which Sir Cosmo said, "Yes, that's hard luck if you like, but don't worry, you'll get another ship. At any rate, I'll give you a fiver each toward getting a new kit." And that's what I meant by her.
Ooh, that's a little ooh, yeah, that's a little out of touch with reality. I would say little little rude, a little inappropriate, but it's kind of like some of these people just don't know how to read a room correctly, for sure. Like, uh, there's a literal boat thinking people are dying and, these are the jokes that you're making, but at the same time, it's just kinda how they were, kinda just out of touch.
At any rate, I'll give you a fiver each toward getting a new kit. And that's what I meant by her narrative just being so first class.
That's very true. Very true. Although she does have some other entries where I think she really was a little bit distressed of seeing this, you know, huge ship go down. Even if she maybe didn't act the best or maybe say things in the best way, I would say yes, very much like first class esque experience explanation. I would say of it, 100%. But I do think that, somewhere maybe deep down inside her, she probably was like, "Holy shit," you know?
And that's what I meant by her narrative just being so first class. And whether it was their wealth or position in society, or merely their position on the ship being closer to the lifeboats, the first class fared far better than anyone else on the ship. About 60% of them survived.
That's a huge percentage, and I wouldn't have expected anything less than that, honestly. 60% a lot, I would say, considering, the whole situation, and really not very surprising. I would have expected them to have the higher percentage of survivors.
Far better than anyone else on the ship. About 60% of them survived. And some of those survivors carried their menus with them in
Oh,
their coat
wow.
pockets, so that today we can get a glimpse into those last happy moments aboard Titanic where they enjoyed food such as peaches in chartreuse jelly. So once your jelly is fully set, dip the mold into some hot water for just a few seconds, then set an oiled plate over the top and flip it over. It should just plop out. If it doesn't, return it to the hot water and try again. Then you can garnish it with a bit of whipped cream or Italian meringue, or just leave it as is. And here we are, peaches in chartreuse jelly from the
It looks
last
so
meal
fancy.
aboard the Titanic. Got some peach, got some meringue, and got some jelly, which is so
Yeah.
jiggly. Here we go.
What are we thinking? Oh, he feeling sassy. Sassy fancy.
That texture. I don't like jelly, like Jello. So
Mm. There are a lot of people that don't like Jello, the texture. Jello has like a really weird texture. So it seems like it's like a love-hate thing. Like you either love it or you hate it, and it's usually based on the texture. I like Jello, so I think I would enjoy this a lot. But I also don't blame them because it is weird. It is a weird texture.
that texture. I don't like jelly, like Jello. So that's the first thing. I don't like the texture, but I kind of knew that going in. Um, what's interesting is that at first I was like, oh, this flavor, I don't want my dessert to taste like the 150 herbs that are used in chartreuse.
Oh gosh.
But then there's enough sugar in there, and the peach, it kind of like coats that weird medicinal flavor. But you get the medicinal flavor at first, but then it goes away for a bit more of a subtle sweetness. Do I like it? No, I don't.
That's fair.
But I don't hate it as much as I thought I would, so that's good.
I would say that's a win. That's a win, you know? Like, he doesn't find it absolutely disgusting, but obviously not his favorite. I think that's fair, and I think that's a win.
But I don't hate it as much as I thought I would, so that's good. Honestly, this dish is a centerpiece, you know? But that's really all that it is, in my opinion, because I don't like jelly. So that, don't let that influence if you want to make it. It's kind of fun to make, especially if you have a really cool mold. So as we wind down Titanic month, I just wanted to thank you all. These videos have done very well, and I was worried that an entire month of Titanic was going to be too much for people, but it wasn't. People really, really loved it, and lots of new subscribers. I
Good.
hope you stick with me
Yay.
for future episodes, not on Titanic, because we do other interesting things here on the channel. Also, I finally finished my Titanic.
He finished it. Oh my gosh, this is huge. This looks amazing, though. This looks so good.
We do other interesting things here on the
We gotta go
channel.
back so I can see the
Also,
rest of it.
I finally finished my Titanic Lego,
Amazing.
except that I am missing a flag that I'm pretty sure that the cat ate. Anyway, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'll put all the links to my socials and Patreon down in the description, and I will see you next time on Tasting History.
I love this one. This one was so good too. I really enjoyed the whole Titanic series. I will get to the couple other ones. I will sprinkle those throughout our tasting history journey on this channel. So I will get to them. They just won't be like next week or like anytime soon. I kind of want to watch some of the other ones, but I did want to get through all of the classes at least of the Titanic, and then we will get to the other ones. But fantastic video. I love this. This Jello looked like it was pretty good. It looked pretty tasty. I would try it, and I think I would enjoy it. I like Jello. I don't really mind the texture of it or anything like that. So I feel like I would enjoy this dessert a lot. But great video, loved it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to go and subscribe to Tasting History with Max Miller. He does just such an amazing job and works so hard on these videos, and I always learn so much, and they're just fantastic. So be sure to go give him some support. But that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys had a great day, and I will see you in the next one.